G'day legends, I hope that you're all doing well. Now, firstly today we're going to talk about the helicopters that have crossed from Belarus to Poland, how some misinformation was sort of being disseminated from that. Then we're going to talk about the claims of some more drone strikes and some footage of it as well. And then of course we'll have a look at some map movements, as some maps have showed no movements, but others showing something I think very interesting in some places. Now, I get a lot of questions regarding why I don't report on the individual losses of soldiers or the numbers of combatants lost. And in my opinion and experience, I don't trust the numbers coming out of either of the ministries of defence, especially as all this would actually be impossible to confirm day to day. And I think that the estimates that we are given are frequently over-exaggerated. But you guys can have it out with what you think of that. There's a lot of talking about these Belarusian helicopters that have seemingly crossed into Poland. And of course, all of this spread like wildfire because it made good headlines as well. And there's a level of paranoia around Belarus. You know, Belarus has been the launch pad for Russian assaults in the past, and especially now the Wagner PMC has been operating in Belarus. But that said, there are so many conflicting reports of what has actually happened, and some official statements have absolutely flip-flopped on what happened. So originally it happened and it didn't happen, and now we have statements that it did happen and some footage and whatever as well. So it's been difficult to exactly know. But we'll actually have a look at the statements made. So this was from the Polish here. After the commanders and heads of service presented conclusions from the analysis of the situation, it was determined that today, August the 1st, 23, that there was a violation of Polish airspace by two Belarusian helicopters that carried out training near the border. The Belarusian side previously informed the Polish side about the training. Crossing the border took place in this region at a very low altitude, making it difficult for radar systems to detect. Therefore, in a morning release, the operational command of the armed forces announced that Polish radar systems did not record a violation of the airspace. This is where that flip-flop came from that we talked about. And I won't try and pronounce the Minister of National Defence's name, but the chairman of the committee, he ordered to increase the number of soldiers at the border and allocate additional forces, funds, including combat helicopters. So more Polish soldiers will be then on that border with Belarus. NATO was informed about the incident. In addition, the committee determined that Charge d'Affaires Belarus will be summoned to the Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs to clarify the event. So an official clarification between officials there. We remind you that Russia and Belarus have recently intensified hybrid activities against Poland. Due to possible further provocations, we call for responsible dissemination and commenting on information that can be used by Russia and Belarusian regime. But Belarus's defense ministry has written on Telegram, said that Warsaw had changed its mind about the incident, apparently after consulting its overseas masters. This statement was not backed up by data from Poland. The Belarusian Defense Ministry views it in the manner of old wives' tale and notes there were no border violations by Mi-8 or Mi-20 helicopters. So here are some photographs taken from the ground in Poland as well. These are the two Belarusian helicopters here. This is a close-up one of them as well. And we have some more photographs too. Now, Visegrad 24, being a very pro-Ukrainian source, then shared this as well. This is what the claimed flight path was, but there's been nothing to back up that this was then the official flight path. And we'll get onto this in a second. So, was this a training accident that we know Belarus is training near the border and has pre-warned Poland of this training, or was it something more malicious? So, I think that most likely is it just an accident, but a very silly one at that, and if it did result in shooting down of a chopper, it would have been 100% justified. That said, choppers move a lot faster than I think a lot of people realise. So let's have a look at this. So I just did some quick looking up. So the Mi-24 helicopter moves at a cruise speed of 280 kilometers an hour and a max of 324. So let's take that it was just at this cruise speed. And then I've had a look on Google Maps and I've tried to line up this flight path that Visegrad said that it was as much as I can. So let's just say that is what it is. I've tried to get that close. So the leg into Belarus is 5 kilometers, said from here, or all round the round trip put 8.3. Now I've put this into a speed distance calculator, of course, and at 5 kilometers at 280. So this is 1 minute and 4 seconds before they then had that turn off. And this is one of the reasons I do believe that it may have just been an incident. I think many people use sort of Call of Duty maps or Google Maps type navigation rather than these high-speed grid reference GPS style that military actually do. I was lead nav in Afghanistan on slower moving vehicles, and it was very easy to have a moment of like, where the fuck am I while watching your bearings tick over. And I'm not saying there's any excuse for this, but it happens. And I could actually believe at traveling at almost 300 kilometers an hour being a minute off course. We don't know the training and experience of these Belarusian pilots. We don't know the visibility, particularly from those choppers. We don't really know. So, but it just, to me, seems like the absolute suicide mission if it was something of malice. But the other option, which I believe is less likely than just purely an accident, but the other option was that they're checking reaction times and what Poland and NATO's response would actually be. But I just don't think this is too likely. It would just be a suicide mission if either Belarus or Wagner actually tried something on the Suwalki Gap or into Poland, whatever. And especially as Wagner have bigger issues in Africa right now. But that is just my take, that it was probably most likely just an accident, and a very fucking stupid one at that. Or maybe looking for reaction times, probing sort of things from there. We're not really sure, and we probably won't know. But airspace violations, or at least alleged violations, in international airspace where some may recognise, these are really nothing uncommon. It's just that this is very trendy at the moment. Just have a look at the tens of videos of Russian jets intercepting B-1 bombers, like American bombers, and F-16s intercepting Russian Tu-95 Bear aircraft. This is nothing new, although most of that is in international airspace. There are claims in other areas. So that is just where we're looking, and let's just zoom out and have a look at exactly where we're looking. Now, some of the places I'm talking about of these other interceptions that we see all the time is, I think a lot of people don't realise how close Russia and America actually are. So here we have Russia here. Russia comes all the way across to here. And, of course, then we have Alaska being United States. Now, fun fact was Alaska was actually bought off Russia to the US for $7.2 million in 1867. If we account for inflation, whatever, it's now $151 million in 2022, or 42 cents an acre, which is an incredible deal. It must have driven a hard bargain off Facebook Marketplace. But of course, this is where we see a lot of claims of airspace violations. But there are two islands here. So we have Little Diomede, Big Diomede Islands. Now, to my knowledge, this small one is owned by the States and this one is owned by Russia, and that it actually freezes in between. So theoretically, it would be possible to walk between the United States and Russia, although you'd get shot, I believe, either way. But I just thought that was very interesting. Now, some footage has emerged of the drone that struck the IQ building in Moscow, at least clearer footage, to me confirming that this was in fact a Ukrainian Beaver drone, the same drone that we have seen from the trailer released by official Ukrainian sources that indicate large-scale drone attacks are on their way to Russia. So let's have a look here, and this is then the footage. Now, we should cruise through there and we can hear that motor, but as well, I think if we can stop in somewhere, you can see these iconic two front canard little winglets at the front, and that is very indicative of that it was the Beaver drone. Now, there's been more about these upcoming strikes. Ukrainian presidential official Mikhailo Podolyak in the last 24 hours has confirmed these threats. So, having this statement on his Twitter, Moscow is rapidly getting used to a full-fledged war, which, in turn, will soon finally move to the territory of the authors of the war to collect all their debts. Everything that will happen in Russia is an objective historical process. More unidentified drones, more collapse, more civil conflicts, more war. So somewhat confirming those threats given in the video as well. Now, there has been explosions in Sevastopol, Crimea, which is being reported both as drone attacks or Storm Shadow missiles. So we don't really know which one yet, but it was said to have hit then an ammo storage. So we have this photograph here of where this strike took place, just to the east of Sevastopol in Crimea, and it is said to be this location. Now, some sources have then geolocated it to this area. So if we just zoom out, we can see where it is to the east of Sevastopol. Now, I will say that the geolocation I got on this wasn't off where I normally get it, so, maybe don't take it fully on board. It's not the place that I normally get it and trust it, but I've seen this indicated over multiple places as well, and there's no reason not to trust it, but it's not my normal place, if that makes sense. So said to be here. at, where they're saying there's a storage of ammunition as well. Now, mixed reports claim that Ukrainian naval drones attacked 2 patrol boats in the Black Sea Fleet, being the Vasil Bokov and the Sergei Kotov. They're saying 350 kilometres southwest of Sevastopol. So we are in Sevastopol here, and 370 kilometres to the southwest. So a long way out into the Black Sea. Now, the Ministry of Defence Russia had this statement tonight. The armed forces of Ukraine made an unsuccessful attempt to attack patrol ships Sergei Kotov and Vasily Bokov of the Black Sea Fleet, performing tasks to control navigation in the southwestern part of the Black Sea, 340 kilometres southwest of Sevastopol, by 3 sea unmanned boats. In the course of repulsing the attack, all 3 unmanned enemy boats were destroyed by fire from the standard armament of Russian ships. And here are the 2 ships of the Black Sea Fleet continue to carry out their tasks. And this is the Sergei Kotov here. Now, Ukrainian pages are claiming that there are injuries and KIA aboard the vessels from radio interceptions. But at this point, we have no more information than really this. It's very scattered. But small seagoing drones are a real threat to Navy ships, especially when used in swarms. As some intel I've received before and actually shared with you guys, off-the-shelf parts from like jet skis, some RF stuff from like drones, these are a deadly weapon. The real limiting factor is the range of the radio control and fuel, but can carry a lot more than, say, a drone because they're floating across the water, not a drone in the air. And ships don't actually really have that much to counter these type of attacks. Of course, they've got systems, EW, but from what I was saying, a cheap, simple swarm of things like this can be very successful against ships. So most will point at a system like the Phalanx or CIWS, the CIWS close-in weapon system, or the Russian variant, which is called the Kashtan. Now, the Phalanx fires at a rate of 4,500 rounds per minute, but where most people forget, it only has a magazine of 1,550 rounds. Now, the Kashtan has 2 barrels, so therefore fires 9,000 rounds a minute, but only has a magazine of either 2 by 500 rounds or 2 by 1,500, depending on if it's the M variant or not. But what I'm trying to get at is this isn't that many rounds. It has a very high rate of fire, but not that many. So my point is these systems are incredibly effective, but will only get in the seconds of firing before they'll be reliant on other ship systems and can be overwhelmed and swarmed with these cheap drone boat bloody things. And the information I received from a guy who was in the Navy said that these are a real threat to modern warships. We're going to have a look at the maps as always. Now, WarMapper again has said that there is no movement that they're reporting, but some other maps show a little bit different. So let's have a look then over them. So firstly, of course, we have Ukraine in the center, the capital of Kyiv. This is on the deep state map. The red areas occupied since 22, the purple since 14. Of course, here we have the Black Sea, the Sea of Azov. Now, where we're going to come is we've seen a lot of fighting down around Svatove or Kyiv areas, but we haven't seen any changes in the last couple of days here on this or the ISW map. We've seen a lot of fighting in this area as well, but doesn't show any real dramatic changes. It shows that Russia made maybe a little bit more border here, but it could just be then a map correction too. There's not too much has changed there. But this is where I think this is very interesting, excuse me going everywhere, where we have seen, I think, a big change on then the ISW map. So we have known the difference between the deep state and the ISW was the deep state showed near Uruzani here that it's sort of straight across to the east, where the other maps have shown that it came out almost in a spire. Of course, this is Uruzani here. So let's look at what the ISW was showing us only then 2 days ago. So this is it. I'm sure you can already see the difference that it showed this was coming out. And what we talked about was that Russian forces could be cut off here by Ukraine pushing on the east to take Uruzani, or if Russia can cross this waterway, could cross over here. Now, this waterway is acting as a bit of a natural border for a very complex crossing either way. So it is keeping this area. But we have seen that it is showing a significant more ground has been held here by the Russians than only a few days ago. So I thought that was very interesting, but the changes there haven't really been shown anywhere else. Now, on the deep state, this shows something interesting as well that isn't being shown on the other maps, and I've compared them. Is in Avdiivka, we see between yesterday and today that Russia took a lot of ground. We can just see the changes here. So past Kamyanka, as well as some pushes to the east of Oputny and from the north of Vodani here. That is a lot of changes. But Ukraine also made some ground near Neveselki here as well. So we go back to the 31st and then to the 2nd. So Ukraine did push back there. But I thought that was interesting because that does seem like a lot of ground in and around there. And I have had a look on the ISW and compared the ISW from about 5 days ago and today. It doesn't show any different, but I do think the yellow area here does show very similar to where now the deep state has maybe caught up to. Now, there are no other changes shown on the deep state map up and down the front line, nor on the ISW. The Bakhmut, everything looks the same. We know there's been so much fighting in Bakhmut. On the flanks, Ukraine is making some ground if you look over it over a couple of weeks, but day to day is very slow, and there have been more reserves there, and Ukraine still does have a lot of troops still in reserve to go into the fight. Now, somewhere we have spoken about before was this Svatove region. We did see Russia take a lot of ground here and then Ukraine take some back. So this is what we spoke about over the last week. There we go. You can see that Russia took a lot and then it came back. Now, let's have a look at the map. So Rybar released one for August the 1st, which is the most recent from Rybar of this sector. Now, I was just having a look through my maps, and this, of course, is from July 26th. So 6 days ago. Now we have a look at this same region. We just need to line up some of this. So of course the 26th is on the left and from yesterday is on the right, but this is the most recent Rybar that we've got. Nadia here, Novojelahovka here, that's probably said completely wrong. We have 170 here as well. And as you can see, Russia has made a major advance through here. If Rybar is to be taken as, what the movements are, there's been a big amount of ground here then taken over between the 26th and, of course, then the 2nd. So what we are going to do is have a look on the ISW and see about this region. So let's have a look and compare these. And I believe this is showing fairly similar. And something we do see again and again is the yellow claimed on the ISW tends to match what the Rybar Russian sources is saying that they have got. So if we have a look at this Novoryuvka bit, which I'm probably saying wrong, it is here. But I do believe they're saying more that they've taken through here. If we see where the township sits here before it turns into this other town, which I won't try and pronounce, and all the way up into Ryhodka here as well. And this shows that, as I was showing, Nadia as well is in the claimed control, so straight down here. So it is showing similar, but not the exact same. But I just thought that was interesting, showing where that then is changing. It even shows where this cuts in here, but I do believe that this is showing a larger cut in than it is definitely showing. Then the ISW is saying that they then are claiming. So I thought that was interesting to see those movements from there. But Rybar is claiming that they've moved a lot, and these are showing that's just claimed. So I don't know. The maps are showing a little bit different. Some places similar, others, but some are updated more often. Others are taken from different sources. We don't really know, and I can't tell you what to trust exactly. I just say go over, have a look at different sources and say it's probably somewhere in the middle there of both have definite biases. But legends, that's it from me today. Look after yourselves. I hope that you're doing really well. I'll speak to you tomorrow. If you'd like to support me, the link's down below, but never feel obliged. Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.